In the closing months of the Human Covenant War, humanity was on its last legs. The 3-decade-long war had dwindled mankind's expansive empire in near limitless resources to basically nothing. An 800-colony-strong human expanse had fallen to the Covenant onslaught, leaving a few isolated worlds untouched. Billions of human lives perished beneath the intolerable flames of the Covenant's holy war of extermination. Our greatest military stronghold was discovered by the Covenant, putting our foes on Earth's doorstep, and humanity perilously close to annihilation. The fact that humanity actually made it through the war is nothing short of a miracle, helped in no small part by dozens of circumstances that played out into eventualities that kept a narrow but stable path intact for humanity to tread carefully. One of the major ones was obviously the Covenant Civil War, which splintered the millennia-old religious alliance and gave humanity and their newfound allies the means and opportunities to defeat the once implacable theocracy. But the real driving force behind humanity's survival can be tracked to just a few individuals. Obviously, the most significant and immediately obvious is the Spartan 2 super soldier known as the Master Chief and his AI companion, Cortana. They were instrumental in the final months, weeks, days, and hours of the Human Covenant War, and were there at the razor's edge of events as the war finally, mercifully, came to a close. But there were other mitigating circumstances which ultimately had to play out in precisely the right way to ensure Chief and Cortana were even there and able to even remotely influence the final conditions that led to humanity's survival. A major one to consider is the assistance of Noble Team, a group of Spartans who laid down their lives on Reach's surface to not only fight back the Covenant and buy humanity time, but to physically escort Cortana from Oni labs deep within Reach's terrestrial crust to the awaiting vessel the Pillar of Autumn at the shipbreaking yards in Azod, so that Chief and Cortana could ultimately work together to end the war. But there is another individual who has gone utterly unrecognized in this particular endeavor, that had they have not broken protocol, had they not acted in the better interests of humanity, against orders no less, Noble Team wouldn't have been there to deliver Cortana to the Autumn, as well as actions well beyond this, that all aided in maximizing the odds that humanity would actually survive the war. And today, we're going to discover exactly who this is. Hey everyone, welcome back to Installation 00. I have closed down my Teespring store for a variety of reasons, but I've replaced it with a Spreadshirt store. You can still find the merch where it's always been, down below every video, or at installation00.co.uk. Check it out, see if there's anything you like, it all helps. Now, back to the video. Noble Team performed numerous operations over the course of their existence, and even the constitution of the team varied over the years. To wider public perception, Noble Team were just another squad of Spartan 2 super soldiers. They were massive, powerful human beings wearing the Spartans' iconic Mjolnir-powered assault armor, but the reality of these Spartans was strikingly different to what the public were allowed to know about them. In reality, Noble Team were what was known as Cat 2 Spartans from the Spartan 3 program. Category 2 Spartans, often shortened to Cat 2 Spartans, were a classification created by Oni to describe super soldiers who were not part of the original Spartan 2 program, but who still demonstrated capabilities far above their peers. These Cat 2 Spartans were pulled from the standard rank and file of the Spartan 3 companies, outfitted with Mjolnir-powered assault armor, and then deployed in similar fashion to the Spartan 2s. thereby avoiding what would ultimately become the respective high-risk suicide missions of each respective class. In order to keep the existence of the Spartan 3 program a secret, these Mjolnir-clad Spartan 3s were not formally identified or differentiated from the earlier Spartan 2 program, even going so far as to attribute the operations and successes of them directly to their predecessors. Noble Team were not the only Mjolnir-clad Spartan 3 squad in existence. There was also Gauntlet, Red and Echo teams, who were deployed in civilian evacuation operations during the Fall of Reach. Some of these Spartans' fallen bodies were found by Noble 6 in his final hours. The highly classified Headhunters were also often Cat 2 Spartans, but remained in an enhanced SPI armor which occasionally included energy shielding, motion trackers, and visor systems. So, were it not for the Spartans that would eventually become Noble Team being identified as Cat 2 Spartans and being pulled from the rosters, they would have attended and likely died during their respective high-risk missions at the age of 14. But other mechanisms came into play to avoid this circumstance. The powers that be made the decision to pull these candidates from the respective companies. Alpha Company, first enlisted in December of 2532, were brought to Camp Currahee on the classified planet of Onyx and trained by Senior Chief Petty Officer Franklin Mendez, the legend who had trained the Spartan 2s, a complement of Oni-assigned drill instructors all led by Spartan 051, Kurt, who had been covertly acquired by Oni for this task, staging a failed thruster pack and a not-so-random trajectory out into space, where he was scooped up in his unconscious state and reassigned to train the Spartan 3 candidates, all orphans of the Human Covenant War. Following their training and augmentations, Alpha Company were given their semi-powered infiltration armor and deployed to active service. After only a very few opening missions, Kurt sent classified Communique regarding his plans to reallocate certain exemplary individuals from Alpha Company. The comms read as follows: "With Prometheus drawing close, we've had to move fast to reallocate A266, A282, and A302. I think we might be pushing our luck with A019, but we all know the odds Alpha Company is up against. We need to press Ackerson for as much as we can get while keeping ahead of the probability threshold for operational success." Still trying to sell him on our little covert initiative, settled on 2 Spartan units dedicated to high-priority recon, sabotage, and assassination. Hell, I don't care if he reassigns them as his private Grim Reapers. We just need to pull these candidates out of the meat grinder before it's too late. Only 9 months after activation, Emil A239, Carter A259, June A266, Tom A293, and Rosenda A344 were identified as Cat 2 and pulled from the rank and file, given Mjolnir-powered assault armor, and permanently reassigned. This program of identifying and reassigning high-performance or Cat 2 Spartan 3s continued into Beta Company. The company graduated in 2545, and from the roster, Spartans Owen B096, Roland B210, Jonah B283, Catherine B320, and Spartans B170 and B312 were pulled from the main rank and file and reassigned. In addition, however, 2, and only 2, survivors made it out of Operation Torpedo, being Lucy B091 and Tom B292, who were reassigned to train the next company of Spartan 3s. From these 2 companies, all of the constituent members of Noble Team had been spared the grim fate of the rest of their brothers and sisters in arms. Noble Team was created at some point after 2545. We know this because the only 2 surviving members of the original team by the time of the Fall of Reach was Carter and Kat. Carter was from Alpha Company, but Kat was from Beta. If they were founding members, it simply wouldn't have been possible before Beta Company's graduation in 45. Noble Team were sent on countless near-suicidal battles at great cost to the team. Numerous members cycled into Noble Team and either listed as MIA, missing in action in keeping with ONI Directive 930, or cycled back out of the team but remaining on call for emergency reassignment or replacement if needed. But the incarnation of the team that would come to defend Reach and become the famed Spartan team who uncovered the Covenant on Reach and got Cortana to the Pillar of Autumn included Carter, June and Emil from Alpha Company, and Kat from Beta Company. In addition to this, in late 2551, Spartan George 052, a Spartan 2, was rotated into Noble Team, having been transferred from Naval Special Weapons to Special Warfare Group 3 at an earlier point in his career. And finally, Spartan B312 was acquired from Oni Black Operations. And with that, the Noble Team we are familiar with came into form. Deploying to Reach, uncovering the Covenant invasion party and beginning retaliatory and planet defense operations, chasing with the highly risky Operation Uppercut, destroying the Covenant supercarrier Long Night of Solace with an improvised slip space drive engine bomb that resulted in the loss of George 052, operations to defend the planet and asset denial continued with the team suffering the loss of Cat B320 and the team then being acquired by Oni and Dr. Halsey. Their task now was simple: deliver the AI known as Cortana, carrying mission-critical information for Operation Red Flag, to the Halcyon-class cruiser the Pillar of Autumn waiting at the Azod shipbreaking yards. Noble Team, while still taking losses, ultimately succeeded in delivering Cortana to Captain Jacob Keyes and ensuring the Pillar of Autumn could depart Reach safely. Everything that happened following this, the Pillar of Autumn finding the first Halo, the destruction of the Flood on Alpha Halo, preventing the Ring from being fired, destroying the fleet of Particular Justice, the failure of Fleetmaster Thel Vadam, ultimately leading him to disgrace and redemption as the Arbiter, where he uncovered the lies of the Prophet and initiated a civil war in the Covenant, with the elites coming to humanity's aid, Master Chief and Cortana's union that ultimately trailblazed the path for humanity and the Sangheili in the closing weeks of the Human Covenant War, that ultimately resulted in the fall of the Covenant Empire, the destruction of the Flood, and humanity's survival of a 30-year-long genocidal war, can all be traced back to Noble Team, their formation from the Spartan 3 companies, all stemming from orders given by one man, Kurt 051. Except that isn't who made the order. There was another on Onyx with enough subtle influence and power to make such a thing come into being, to move the pieces that led to such an eventuality. The AI known as Deep Winter. Deep Winter was an artificial intelligence assigned to Onyx following the replacement of Eternal Spring, an earlier AI, around mid-2537, and from the outset he distinguished himself not through cold efficiency but through an unusually human concern for the Spartans under his watch. Noted for being highly talkative, Deep Winter inadvertently revealed sensitive information to Lieutenant Commander Kurt Ambrose and Senior Chief Petty Officer Franklin Mendez, including the impending deployment of the Spartan 3 Alpha Company on Operation Prometheus. Yet his concern for the children went far deeper than careless speech. To Deep Winter, he was not merely an overseer. He considered himself a father to the Spartans, alongside Kurt and Mendez. Throughout the training of the Spartan 3 Beta Company, Deep Winter served as the station AI at Camp Currahee on Onyx, repeatedly voicing concerns for the physical and psychological welfare of the candidates. That same protective instinct extended to Gamma Company. In 2551, facing his own end-of-life termination, Deep Winter uncovered evidence of dangerous and illegal modifications to the Gamma augmentations. In a final act of sacrifice, he embedded a fragment of his own intellect into a slipspace probe, severely degrading his processing capacity, and launched it via slipspace communications to reach Kurt aboard the UNSC Hopeful. This allowed Deep Winter only a brief window to warn Kurt directly without the support of a full data center or power infrastructure. Unbeknownst to him, the very alterations he was exposing had originated with Kurt himself, sanctioned by Colonel James Ackerson. By the time Kurt returned to Onyx, Deep Winter had been shut down. All that remained were the files he left behind, detailing the altered augmentations his findings, and a final, quiet confession from an AI who chose compassion over protocol, which read as follows.
You were wondering how I lasted this long. Practically double the original estimation of my operational life. Impressive, no? Alas, this is not about my longevity, which I fear has come to an end. I know that you and Ackerson will have these files purged. I don't know if you will even look at them, for I suspect we have both kept secrets from each other that we fear to know. And therein lies my own confession. I have loved every one of these Spartans as you have. I sought to protect them, and I operated beyond my orders to protect those that I could. I'm not the first of my kind to make such obfuscations, and I certainly don't expect to be the last. There is another file attached here, one that you would no doubt be confused to find your name attached to. I needed to ensure the reassignment of several members of Alpha Company to give momentum and purpose to parallel initiatives, and invoking your attribution would cause enough of a stir to set those wheels in motion. I make no apologies for this deception. And I tell you this so that there is no doubt in your mind that, like yourself, like Mendez, we were each as fathers to these children. I may only be mind, but I am not without heart. Farewell, 051.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, be sure to tap that like button. If you want to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Pop a comment down below on things you'd like me to cover in the future, or any thoughts on today's video. I'll just quickly take this opportunity to thank my patrons and YouTube supporters: Falcon X003, the Singular Contender Class Ancilla, Laser and Spartan 0137, two of the triumvirate of minds within the Metarch of my installation. My installation's monitors: Shane, Orion, Spartan 1029, 121 Esoteric Sight, Ashley and Sylphia. The creche of sub-monitors: Legion, Ryan, Labrat, Element Zero, J3, Mr. Keys, Gunslinger Cult, Evermore's, Personal Devil, Scion Esports, Phantasma and Tony. My fleet of Strato Sentinels, my most loyal of Enforcers, and every single one of the awesome individuals helping to support the channel over on Patreon. It really does help and allows me to keep doing what I do, and I can't thank you all enough. Huge shout to my Tier 0 Transcendent YouTube members Balaz, Jimbo and Mori. Thank you for continuing to stand sentry over my installation from all threats metaphysical. And if you would like to help support the channel in a more visceral way, consider jumping aboard as a YouTube member or patron to earn tons of perks, merch and goodies along the way. Thank you again for watching, take it easy everyone, and find peace in the domain.